Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Our virtual participants, can you hear me? Our virtual folks can't hear us.
The virtuals are not hearing.
You're muted.
Our virtual participants, can you hear us?
Unmute yourself.
Our virtual participants, can you hear us?
Now we can.
Oh, there. Up.
No, we don't need the speaker. Then no feedback. Can you hear you?
Can you hear us? Taline, can you hear us? Okay, yes, they can. Thank you. We're good.
They can hear?
You need to share my mic? You need to share my mic? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. It is 7:33. I'm about to start recording, actually. Okay, thank you for joining our full board meeting. It is June 22nd, 7:33 p.m., and our meeting is going to begin. We're going to start with our public gallery session. Just to remind everybody, you have a total of 2.5 minutes to speak. Do we have anybody that would like to speak? Yes, raise your hand if you would like to speak. Okay, we have from Bronx NHS, Chris, I don't see your full name. Christian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Beatrice. How are you doing? Hello, my name is, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, my name is Christian Campagna. I'm the outreach coordinator for Bronx Neighborhood Housing Services. Our main goal is to help the community and people to get grants to get their first home. However, we also have different programs, and there is this new program that we have, and it's to help people, mainly seniors, to do estate planning for free. So we are helping everyone in our community to either do their power of attorneys, will, health proxy, all these documents for free. So we just wanted the community to know that this service is available for all of you. If you have any questions, make sure to give us a call or stop by the office, and we'll be glad to help you.
Where's your office?
It's located in 1451 East Gun Hill Road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can you please make sure you put your information in the chat?
I did already.
Great. Next up, we have Joe. Joe, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, hi guys. We recently had a problem on White Plains Road between 238 239 where the fire truck got jammed up and it couldn't get by going to the fire at 242nd Street and stuff like that because nobody could pull over and let the fire truck go. And there was an EMT on the other side blocking it and stuff like that. So, I mean, these things have to be dealt with for the safety of all the people that are in our community, and especially the ones that are on White Plains Road now, which many problems have developed. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Next up, Q.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Thanks for allowing me to speak. Just a quick update. I was at the Juneteenth rally. I actually was able to meet Mr. Alfredo Figueroa. He was there, very active. We had a lot of our elected officials. There was a letter that we had made that we gave to a lot of the elected officials, if not all of them. I think 90% of them that were there. Kirsten Gillibrand, the senator, she came. We spoke with her, and she literally was walking on White Plains Road. She walked right in front of my building, and I explained to her what the issues and situations were. So I'm going to keep it brief, and I just want to say one thing to the community board. May God rest the souls of everyone, on that submarine. But now everyone is asking in retrospect, because there was someone who came out and stated this is a problem and they were ignored. Everyone is asking what could have been done. And I don't want that to be us for White Plains Road. All right. I'm not naive or ignorant. I don't believe a letter from the community board is going to be able to miraculously change the situation. That's not going to happen. But at the same time, when we do face the mayor, he is going to ask the Department of Transportation what's going on. And what we've seen is that the Department of Transportation is going to say, hey, we received permission from the community board. So if we can get documentation, that will give us the ability to keep fighting this. Once we receive that, like I told Mr. Figueroa, there will never be another peep out of us on this particular topic. So I hope you guys, would listen to what we have to say, and we're going to keep moving forward in terms of working with our elected officials. All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Q. Mary, you're next. Mary O'Riordan.
Sorry. I wanted first to say that I did send to Ursula, as requested by Tolene Dickerson, a copy of the letter I read at the last Transportation Committee meeting regarding the misrepresentation of safety impact data right before your April 22 votes for the protected bike lane on White Plains Road. Ursula tells me that she will try to send it out next week, hopefully along with the scanned copy of the approximately 600 signatures on the petition against the protected bike lanes.
We're not hearing anything online.
Oh, okay. So, is there anything I can do? You're not hearing anything?
Mary, make sure your mic is on.
I hear it sounds like it's on. Like I hear it. Like, can somebody help me? Maybe I can go into the room and talk? I don't know, because it sounds here like it's on. It just sounds like it's on to me, like it's a reverberation. You probably hear me in there from yeah. So what do you want me to do? There's nobody here to help me. I'm the guinea pig. Are you the person to help me?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. Maybe you know something about mics.
The microphone is definitely on.
Okay.
It might have a delay going.
Yeah, go ahead, Mary. Just keep speaking.
Okay. In the few minutes I have tonight, I'd like to continue to talk about the poor planning of the protected bike lanes. My family's businesses have been on White Plains Road for 54 years. White Plains Road has mixed-use zoning. Modern Glass and Mirror gets deliveries of plate glass several times a week, weighing up to 2.5 tons. Yet the Department of Transportation didn't crosshatch MGM's driveway, let alone give it a loading zone. When MGM did eventually get a meeting with the Department of Transportation a month or two ago, they actually suggested we use a loading zone for the dollar store across the street down the block. If the employees aren't able to grab parking spots in front of MGM as they become vacant so they can move and make space for the delivery truck when it arrives, they have to carry the glass either from one of the travel lanes or parking spots across the street in 20 to 30 trips, carrying up to 80 pounds per trip. We hope to get a loading zone one day, but the truth is that even with the loading zones, large delivery trucks, the type used above 238th Street by businesses like Fairbanks Lumber and MGM, have less room to angle in than they did previously, and you cannot do a retail glass business without parking. The Daily News lead story this past Sunday was about the number of businesses failing in New York City. It listed many reasons, such as perceptions of safety, rents, COVID, and online shopping. I wrote in about another, and the Daily News published my letter today. This is the letter. The protected bike lanes, the bike lanes next to the curb, are also contributing to the number of empty storefronts in New York City. There are more and more of them. One was installed late last year where my family has a business on White Plains Road in the Bronx. With little access to the curb, deliveries are hampered and now more costly, while customers are finding it almost impossible to park. Any small business owner will tell you that the city hates small businesses. Now the city is hammering another nail in the coffin. These mom and pops generally do not want financial aid so much as to be let do their business. Thank you very much for your time. My name is Mary O'Riordan, Modern Glass and Mirror and Industrial Door and Glass, White Plains Road. Should I leave? Do you have have any
Thank,
questions?
thank you, Mary. Next up, we have Richard from Vertex. Apologies for those that are online. We're having some technical difficulties with the public gallery session setup, so please bear with us. Richard, you're next.
I was in a very difficult seat. Hi.
You're on, Richard.
Okay. Well, last week, so my name is Richard Harley. I'm a public affairs officer with Vertex. Vertex is a outpatient substance abuse program that's been operating at 1080 East Gun Hill Road for the last 18 years. Over that time, we have not had any incidents with any Vertex outpatient being arrested or accosting or molesting anyone, which was a concern that was raised by several board members last week in the committee meeting. Just trying to think. You know, we're here to request a letter of support as part of a licensing process with the Department of Health and with the Office of Mental Health Services. So that's why we're here. I'm not sure what else I'm supposed to say. Hello?
Okay, thank you, Richard.
Okay, thank you.
Virginia Sanders, you're next.
I just want you to be aware, 241st and on Baychester, there's two problems. There's the car wash problem and between Furman and all the way down to uh, past Barnes, past all the way down to 41st. Besides the trucks and the car wash, we still have a lot of garbage in that area. The bus stop people seem to be dropping all that garbage right out there, and the bench is so long out there that you can't walk on the sidewalk anymore. It's a little bit of a mess.
Virginia, can you repeat the address?
Okay, 221st, White Plains Road, where the bus depot terminal is, the beginning of the bus, from McDonald's all the way down to the end of the planting where they have the golf
Okay,
on Bay
thank you,
40.
Virginia. Our district manager, George Torres, took down the information, and he and Ursula will follow up.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. You can put if you can put the exact address again in the chat. We wrote it down, but feel free to put it in the chat as well.
I'll try to do.
Thank you, Virginia. Next, we have Patricia.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for the opportunity. On 222nd Street, actually parallel to the Old Time Kitchen Restaurant, in the center lane there, which is there really isn't a center lane. 16 wheelers are parked there. So if people trying to come down Edson Avenue and go straight across, it's almost impossible for them to see oncoming traffic.
Virginia, it's hard to hear you. Can you try again?
You talking to me?
Virginia, yes.
Patricia.
Oh, Patricia. I'm sorry, Patricia.
Okay, so what I was saying that on 222nd Street, parallel to Old Time Kitchen, 16 wheelers parked in the center, and it's virtually impossible to see oncoming traffic when you're trying to go straight across the Edson Avenue. This is an accident waiting to happen, and they just sit there.
Okay, we took note of that, and again, George Torres and Ursula are going to follow up on that. And we have had other complaints, so we're on it. Thank you, Patricia. Next, we have Karen Skinner.
Hi, yes. I don't know. I know I've been on the meetings before, and this was addressed by Mr. Torres. I don't know if it was legal or not. I live by Tilden Towers 1, and we have like at least the post office, they like park their vehicles all the way down into the community away from the post office. I mean, is that legal for them to be able to park their vehicles all the way down into like Barnes Avenue, Tilden Street, 211 Street, along Barnes Avenue? And we also have issues with the big tractor trailer trucks parking on Gun Hill Road by the Bronxwood Nursing Home. I know a survey went out about the issue, but I don't know what's being done about it.
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, cool. So yeah, post office trucks can park anywhere legally. I mean, if that's legal parking, meaning that's no parking. If regular vehicles can park there, post office trucks can park there as well. I understand what you're saying. We've raised this issue with the post office, but we really haven't gotten anywhere with them. But in terms of not parking their vehicles, but that's a concern that we have everywhere. We have a post office on Gun Hill Road. We have a post office, forgetting where the other one is, but it's everywhere. And it's been like that for quite some time. It's not like this is a new problem. So it's not like somebody lost parking as a result of this. I'm sorry that they can park legally. The 18-wheelers, on the other hand, that is something. We have a new commanding officer. I've yet to meet with him. That is an issue we've raised with our elected officials. There is a sort of quote-unquote plan to deal with it, but that plan is going to take years to deal with. In the interim, my concern is that we're not even issuing summonses to these vehicles, which I think is a problem. And I think the NYPD has become too permissive about allowing these vehicles to stay on the streets. Somebody mentioned on the 220, the previous person, Patricia, mentioned 222nd Street. This is a problem that plagues our district. It's on Edson Avenue. It's on Baychester, right in front of our schools. It's a problem. And this is something that I plan to address with the commanding officer. I forget his name, Alfredo. The commanding officer. Corbell, all right. Inspector Corbell, so I will be speaking with him about it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for the public gallery session? Okay. Thank you all. So that concludes our public gallery session. Thank you all so much for participating. Okay. Thank you. And hold on one second. Ms. Benitez, you wanted to do the roll call? We're going to do roll call now.
Good evening, everyone. Roll call. Judith Benitez, present. Denise Bond. Denise Bond.
Denise, can you hear us?
I can hear you. I said present.
Oh, yeah, she's on camera. She's right there.
Keep your volume. Okay.
Michelle Brumfield. Sadie Campbell.
Sadie online? No.
Sadie Campbell.
She's out.
Excuse.
Sadie Campbell.
She's not online.
Okay. Joan Claude.
Present.
All right, yes, I see it.
Thank you, Joan.
She's on virtual then.
Yeah, virtual.
Thank you.
But she's on camera, so she counts.
Beatrice Cornell.
Present.
Christopher. Tolene Dickerson.
Present. Here.
She's there.
Alfredo Figueroa. Johnny
Johnny
Go.
Go.
Tolene. Sorry. Robert Hall. John Isaac.
Where's John? Oh, he's right there.
Theodore James.
He's
Present.
Yeah,
He's on virtual.
yeah, and his camera's on.
Keisha Martin. So I have a feedback. Why am I getting anything?
Huh?
I have a feedback.
It's this.
Somebody's
Okay.
mic is on.
Yeah.
Okay. Keisha Martin, I had stopped. Hi, Keisha. Sorry. Lucille Martin.
She said she was going to be on virtual, but I don't see her.
No, I don't see.
No, she's not.
She's not.
Not that.
Of course, Clinton Line.
Present.
Carmen Ortiz.
I don't see her either.
I'm here. Here.
Oh, there she is. Yeah, there she goes. She's on camera.
Okay. Queenie Peniagua. Hi. Hi. Okay. Anthony Reed. Sherry Samuels.
Over there.
Carl Stricker.
I'm here, but you can't see me.
I know. It's not going to count.
I don't know how to record it, but
Okay.
yeah,
I'll put
he's
him
not
on
on camera.
no picture. Benga. Hi, Benga. Luke Sabados.
Here.
Deborah Torado.
She online?
No.
No?
She's out of town.
She's absent. Okay.
Yeah.
Deborah Walker. Ryan Walters.
He's one of our new ones, right?
Esther. Yema. I'm getting feedback. So is she here?
No, Esther's out.
She's here?
She's not here.
Okay. Okay. We're good. Thank you.
Great. Now we have two presentations. First up, we have Praxis. A representative from Praxis is here.
Madam Chair, my name. Madam Chair, I didn't hear my.
Beatrice, I'm sorry. Mr. Norbert is trying to tell you that he did not hear his name in the roll call.
They told me he was off the call.
Thank you. Okay, and now we're actually waiting for a representative from Praxis. Are you here? Are you virtually with us?
Yes, we're all here.
The floor is yours.
Okay, can you hear us?
We can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us here, allowing us to present today. First of all, I'd like to do some brief introductions just so that we know the folks that are on. We have some folks here from DSS, DHS, and then we also have a representative from Praxis. My name is Marika Scott McFadden. I'm the Deputy Commissioner of Intergovernmental and Legislative Affairs here at DSS. And I'm just going to ask my colleagues to chime in. I know your Bronx rep from our offices here. Jocelyn, will you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Jocelyn Bennett, Bronxboro Rep. Hi, good to see everyone. Hi, George. Hi, Beatrice. I'll pass it over to Derek Aiken, who is on our team from DHS.
Hi, everyone. My name is Derek Aiken. I am the Assistant Commissioner at DHS Transitional Family Services. I'm going to pass it over to Mitzi Agard. So Mitzi Agard is having some technical issues. So Mitzi Agard, DHS Program Administrator, is also on the line. Thank you.
Yes, and we also have on the line for Praxis Sven Jorgensen, and I just want to do a small introduction because, um, as you know, DSS is DSS is comprised of two agencies, DHS and HRA, which are two agencies that function basically as the safety net of the safety net to combat income inequality. And we primarily are homeless prevention service. But when individuals and families have a difficult time and they fall on difficult times, we reach out to our partners and we partner with nonprofits that can provide quality shelter. Tonight we have with us Praxis Housing Initiative, again represented by Sven Jorgensen, and they have a long history of social service with working with social services and healthcare, and we're happy to have them here on this project. This project is a shelter that will house 55 families with children, and there also will be 27 units of affordable housing. So, without further ado, it's my pleasure on this evening to introduce you to Sven Jorgensen, who's probably been here before.
Thank you, Ms. McFadden. Can you hear me? Yes, thank you. Thank you so much to the board, members of the community board, the chair, and representatives of the elected officials that are on the call. I just want to take a minute to introduce myself. My name is Sven Jorgensen. I am the CEO of Praxis Housing Initiatives. I've been working at Praxis since 1996. The organization was established in 1995 with the purpose of providing housing to special needs populations, primarily individuals diagnosed with HIV/AIDS. And since 1995, we were operating four single room occupancies in Manhattan and Brooklyn. And generally, there was approximately 400 people in those transitional programs that we were housing at any given time. What we noticed that we were extremely competent at moving people out of transitional housing and into permanent housing. And over the years, on an average basis, on a yearly basis, we saw ourselves moving about 400 to 500 people out of the shelter system and into either independent housing or permanent support housing. So over the time, as time passed on, we started developing a scatter site housing. And over the years, what we found that we were doing approximately 250 scatter site units in Bronx and Brooklyn also. And obviously, there's a tremendous need for shelters and a tremendous need for permanent housing and affordable housing in New York. So in 2014, we as an organization decided that it was important for us to develop permanent supportive housing and affordable housing for individuals. Actually, the first project that we developed is right up on 237 and White Plains Road. We've actually been on White Plains Road since 2014. It's located at 4339 White Plains Road, 61 units of permanent supportive housing. We were very fortunate actually to get some money from the Bronx Borough President's Office that included a greenhouse, an elevated greenhouse, and a horticultural component that we had as part of the housing model that we had. We believe very much in being an asset and a part of the community. During this period, what we've been doing is that we partnered with Bronx Botanical Garden, and every March, what is conducted over at our facility at 4339 White Plains Road is that the Bronx Botanical Garden provides workshops on seeding, planting to the members of the community. So we make our space available to the benefit of the community. We have been in this area, literally a few blocks away, for 9 years in this particular location. We believe in hiring as many people as possible from within the community. At our particular program at 4339, the program director is literally from 10 minutes away from the building, and approximately half of the staff that we have at this particular location is also living within the community. Um, 2017, we decided again that it's really important for us to develop additional permanent supportive housing and affordable housing. The second project that we put up was funded through HPD Supportive Housing Loan Program, and it was 66 units of permanent supportive housing at Loring Place North. 51 units were permanent supportive housing, 14 units was community-based affordable housing. We had 22,000 applications for those 14 units. It's a beautifully designed building, and again, what's really important to us is how we can engage within the community and how we can have links within the community. At that particular location, we work closely with Bronx Community College and have linkages with Bronx Community College. So 2017, we opened up a Tier 2 shelter in Riverdale. You may be familiar with that program. That project is an 83-unit building. It's for families with children, Tier 2 programs. That building initially received lukewarm support, but over the years, it has been embraced and supported tremendously by the community. We have tremendous amount of support from community-based organizations there, and on an annual basis, Riverdale Country School actually provides tennis classes to some of the children that we have in that particular shelter. Okay. Over the years, we expanded into additional adult family shelters. So we currently actually operate 9 shelters within New York City, and of which 2 of these are buildings that are projects that we have actually constructed ourselves. This brings us to 4435 White Plains Road. Building is it's a 55 units of which we will operate. The building is going to be comprised of 24 studios and 31 bedrooms. The actual building itself has a childcare center on site. The childcare center is operated by Little Stars Childcare Program, and it will cater to approximately 100 children ranging from the age of 0 to 5. And a lot of the children within the facility and also within the community will be participating in this particular childcare program. Little Stars also operates numerous other childcare programs within the Bronx. They have a tremendous reputation. And what any other children over 6 years old will have an opportunity to enroll in some of their other programs in other aspects of the Bronx. Transportation will be made available for them. Staffing at this particular location, again, keeping in mind that we're looking at a 55-unit program here. We're going to have a program director that will be responsible for the building. We're going to have a director of social services who will be responsible for overseeing the services that are being delivered to the clients in an appropriate manner and consistent with the funders' requirements. We will have 2 client care coordinators who will complete comprehensive biopsychosocial assessments of the clients and make sure that they are connected to appropriate services that they may require, either for mental health or substance abuse or whatever else their needs may be. We will have 2 case managers at this particular location, 2 housing specialists. Obviously, there's a tremendous emphasis on moving people out of shelters and into appropriate long-term housing, concept that we very much believe in ourselves, obviously, and contribute to. There will be 3 shift supervisors at this particular location. And the shift supervisors will be responsible for making sure that on the evening times and the midnight shift, that we have an on-site presence to deal with any emergencies that may arise. Security is very important to us. Obviously, security is very important to DHS. We've had 3 bids for the provision of security at this particular site. We have selected one particular vendor. Security will be on site 24/7, and we will have 1 F-80 and a regular security personnel literally on site 24/7. Security will also monitor the front of the building and to make sure that there is no congregating along that area of White Plains Road along the block there. And we'll make sure that that is being addressed if there are any issues. The building itself will have 55 cameras, okay? And these cameras are critical for security purposes. I will be able to access those security cameras from any particular location. I can access it from my office. I can access it from my home. I can access it from 4339 White Plains Road, down the block if necessary. Those cameras will also be made available if necessary, if required, as a deterrent on the block. If there are any police that may require any video surveillance required that might assist them, that security footage will be available. We have the ability to record up to 28 days. We will be doing linkages. Obviously, linkages are very, very important. Having been in the community over a long period of time, we did have a linkage with All Meds, which was merged with Sun River Health. And over the years, we've obviously had linkages with Sun River Health and several of our programs. Sun River Health is an extraordinary good community-based organization. They provide primary care, dental, OBGYN, behavioral health, mental health, pediatrics, substance abuse treatment, to name a few. Those are the services that we will be linking with Sun River Health. In addition to that, we will probably do an additional linkage with Acacia. Again, that's an organization that we've had a long-standing history with. As an organization, we have linkages with approximately 28 community-based organizations that in the areas in which we operate. So there'll be no shortage of services for the clients in the building. I will probably just leave it at that because I'm sure that the board has numerous questions that they may have. And I'll just leave it at that for now.
Okay, we do have some questions from the board members. Luke?
Hi, thanks so much for presenting. This is a new building that's been under construction for a while, and it's great to hear some more clarity. You said a lot of numbers. Did I get it right that it is, there are 14 apartments, affordable housing apartments, and you got 22,000 applications for those? Is that for this building?
Did you hear his question?
Did you hear hello?
We can't hear you, Beatrice.
Did you hear Luke's question?
Once you
No.
No. Once you turn off your microphone, we can't hear you.
I think it's on. Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
Can you hear Luke now?
No.
You can't hear Luke?
Okay.
No.
Come over here.
You said that you have 14 apartments.
We still can't hear him.
Maybe if you just repeat the question.
Oh, you have to speak into the laptop. That's, I guess. I'm sorry.
Come here.
So you said that there are 14 apartments that are available for affordable housing, and you got 22,000 applications. First, I want to know if you can correct me if those figures are right for this apartment. If you can confirm that of those 14, 7 would be given to residents of the community, and if you have any numbers on how many residents of the district have applied for those 7 apartments. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Let me clarify, please. The 14 apartments that I was referring to was part of our permanent supportive housing and affordable housing construction project at Loring Place North. And those were 14 units, of which we received 22,000 applications. A significant percentage of those were community-based housing. This particular location at 4435 White Plains Road, there are 27 apartments that are, I believe the AMI is 100 or 130%. That is not a component that we are handling, Praxis. That is being addressed and handled by the owner of the building in this particular case. So we are not involved in that aspect of either lease up or determining or dealing with Housing Connect.
just so that my board members understand, this is not the normal way that we do things. We tell these providers to come to committee to make presentations, and then we make a presentation to the full board. I don't fault Praxis for this. There are a lot of questions. We were notified, I forget when, but we were notified, and June is our last month. We don't meet in August. So that's why you're getting a presentation today. My understanding then is that you'll be opening sometime during the summer. Am I correct?
I think that is fair to say yes. The determination on the opening date will be DHS, obviously, but I think that's fair to say yes.
Yeah, so we're a little bit at a disadvantage because, for example, a lot of our board members wanted to walk through so that we could see this. I've been having an ongoing conversation with DHS about the number of facilities, and we're actually going to talk about that later on tonight. I don't want to belabor this. But if it's okay with you, we'll put some questions together as a board, and we'll send them over to you. Because this isn't your first facility, and I have questions about that first facility. But again, I don't want to get into the weeds here. It really, this is not a voting item. They are opening. According to DHS, they followed protocol and notification by letting us know that they were doing this. But this is what's happening now. We have a crisis, a housing crisis across the city. We have a migrant crisis across the city, and we're trying to house everybody because it is our obligation to do so. This is what's happened. We can, like I said, if you have questions for us or for Praxis, we can present them to Praxis and to DHS, and hopefully we'll get a response in a timely manner. Thank you, Ben.
I'd just like to say thank you, George, for your comments. We absolutely will try to facilitate a walkthrough when it's feasible. We will respond to any questions. Again, we know the turnaround was a little rapid, but we're always open to giving responses in writing. And in fact, we will be participating in a cab um, for this facility, which, as you know, includes representation and recommendations from the community board as well as elected officials. So we'll have further input as we move forward. Again, thank you for the comments, and we understand that this is not the norm, but we understand at this time that normal is not an option always. So we appreciate the time that you gave us this evening.
Thank you, Marika. But even though we are in a moment of crisis, there should be better protocol. We are things are being thrown at us. And so there has to be a better way for the community to be informed so that then we can inform the residents of this community. There are other needs within this community, such as affordable housing, not just shelter, sanctuary homes. And so we are in a crisis, and we'll be talking about it later, and we hope you stay for that conversation. We do have a lot of questions for you in particular. Thank you.
I will be I will be commuting because I'm still in Manhattan, and I'm not a Manhattanite. As you know, I'm a Bronxite, so I won't be able to stay for that. But I will participate as with all the folks here. Anything that you want to talk about, we will put another meeting together whenever necessary. Thank you.
We don't know what that is.
Excuse
Thank
me.
you, Marika.
So is my understanding that they're not taking any questions from board members at this time? Is that what we're saying?
We can ask questions, but what George was saying is that we should put our questions together. Unfortunately, this is not a voting matter for us. It's happening. And so we don't want to delay everything else we do have to take into account for today. So Denise, we will be submitting questions. It's just this should have come through committee first so that you could have all had the proper timing to ask those timely questions. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And so it's happening. We're not voting on it tonight, but we definitely will be submitting questions and requesting that walkthrough.
Okay, so, but when we go to vote on it, there's nothing really to vote on if they're going to go forward with this, and this is going to be in the summer. There's nothing to vote on.
That's what we're saying. They came for information purposes, right? They're not asking for a letter of support. It's already happened.
Let me put it to you this way, Marika. Is it the suggestion that if the vote votes against it, you're going to stop the project?
No. Well, I think I can answer. No.
I think that you know how this process goes, and would, as you just said, this is part of notification of the community, is part of letting folks know about what the services will be at this facility. This is an official notification. It's not a that particular opportunity to full stop.
I didn't hear that well.
Right. So if I could,
Yeah,
could ask just
look,
one quick question.
as a community board, we have a conversation about how we do things, but I think we're going to raise this issue at the borough level. We're having conversations with our borough president, who's concerned about the siting of all the shelters in the Wakefield area, especially within Councilmember Dinowitz's district. 6 of his 12 shelters, he represents 3 community boards. 50% of them, and he represents a small part of Community Board 12, are located in Wakefield, and we think that that's terrible. And again, it's not your fault. We think that the real estate industry plays a role in the siting of these facilities, and we think that the city is not doing their fair share criteria, which is mandated by law. But because you're addressing a need that is an emergency need, I mean, I have my own opinions on that, but there's nothing for us to have a conversation about tonight. You told us, I'm forgetting when I got the email, but I was out. I don't have my email, but it was less than a month ago that this site was going to open. We requested a walkthrough, and this was the solution to the walkthrough because we couldn't get anything in time for it. This is the same protocol that was followed for the site on Tilden Avenue. I won't give the full address, the Tilden Street, I should say. We were notified that this was happening. This happened for Vibe Hotel. This happened for Friendly Motel. This happened for Monty Hotel. This happened for 4747 Bronx Boulevard. I say that address because DHS promised us that they would never use that site for a shelter after they closed it during COVID. So again, this is your protocol. This is not our protocol. As a community, we like to know we're planning board. So one of our responsibilities is to plan. But again, I take offense to the fact that you give us these timetables and then you sort of act weird about the fact that we're not going to vote on this tonight or that we have additional questions. Oh. It was Denise. Okay, so yeah, we had, but she's a board member. Yeah, all right. So we had board members that had additional questions. And, just to be fair to everybody, we'll submit them. Again, I don't want to belabor it. It's already 8:20. We're not even halfway through our agenda. And we have another presentation that's waiting patiently to go after your presentation.
Thank you, George. I want to thank you for that comment as well, and everything that you expressed in your email, which was very lengthy. As you know, through our interactions and during this process, that there are nuanced conversations around all of those places that you brought up. But I also know that our Bronx rep will be in communication in order to stand up a larger meeting. That includes the community boards and elected officials as well. And we look forward to getting those questions and setting up that walkthrough. So thank you very much.
No, and I will say my last thing, just Jocelyn has been great. And you guys have been responsive.
She's amazing.
You answered our questions when we presented them. So Jocelyn has been on point with us. My complaint isn't necessarily directed at DHS. It is the process by which the city follows. There is literally no planning, and it's hard for me to believe, because these contracts require so much money. I mean, this is almost $100 million in some of the contracts that we've seen, that there's little to no planning. I find that really hard to believe with DHS, that you just, like Praxis came out of nowhere and said, oh, we have a site over here. And you said yes. and we'll take it. There's got to be more planning than that. It's got to be more than a month. You know, I worked at the buildings department. Just getting approval for plans takes several months. So the idea that you couldn't notify in advance of the approvals for the permits for those sites, you know, it tells me something.
Again, that's part of that larger conversation we're happy to have. And I won't belabor the point as well. I know you have other folks that need to speak. Thank you for the time. And thank you, Praxis, for the presentation as well.
Okay, now we will be moving on to our next presenter, Baychester Materials. We'll give them a second to walk down. They're gonna come down here, right?
No,
But then they can't hear them.
oh, that's right. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Here you go.
You should do it over here. Yeah, do it. You have to be on the laptop.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Hey, what's going on, everyone? You guys look tired? It's almost done, right? Not really? Okay. Okay. We're going to put, this is Aaron from Baychester Materials. We're going to tell you what's happening, the project they have coming up.
Hey, how are you? Thank you for having us tonight. My name's Aaron Benhamo. I'm a principal of Baychester Materials. I'm here with Jason Lasley, my partner, John Eckler, and my father, Gotti Benhamo. We're proposing a recycling facility at 1684 East 233rd Street. Hello? Is that better? So we're proposing a recycling facility at 1684 East 233rd Street. The proposed facility would consist of a 13,500 square foot building where all the C&D recycling activities would be inside. The facility is right across the street from the Department of Sanitation. Our facility is going to be regulated by the New York State DEC and the Department of Sanitation. And we recently conducted a public participation plan 2 nights ago where we invited everyone from the community and other local stakeholders to join a Zoom meeting where we would inform the public about this facility. Unfortunately, the Community Board 12 was not able to make it, so we decided to come here tonight and inform you about this project. More or less it.
Okay. Usually it will be just what's called C&D, which is construction debris, which is if someone is redoing, like we're rehabbing a bathroom or breaking down a wall, it's going to be wood, paper, plastic, glass, those types of things. On the outside, we will have what's called carbs, and we'll be recycling like concrete, brick, and soil outside. So everything will be recycled back into the community. Yes, we do. We have a complete CLCPA analysis for greenhouse gases, for dust control. All the equipment is state of the art. We'll have, it's all hybrids, all those types of things. Oh, CLCPA.
The new
DEC, state regulation.
Community leadership, climate, community leadership, climate, public, I think so.
I'm just remembering.
No, I don't believe so as part of this project. There will be a new facility, but there's an existing building there. that we're just building basically on the same footprint, only a little bit larger for like push walls and things like that. Oh, I'm sorry. No, no, ma'am. This is across from the sanitation garage on
You guys know where the bowling alley is, the junkyard area?
between Provost Avenue and like Clementine. We're on the complete eastern side of the last side. Correct. Yes. Yes.
We can take in, I believe, 1,200 yards of rock and C&D and 300 to 400 yards a day of rock and dirt.
The C&D actually happens inside the facility. That's not outdoor a project whatsoever. That gets dumped onto the main floor and separated as wood, paper, plastic, and glass indoors. The exterior is where the rock and dirt will happen. There will be some of the containers coming in, yes. Yes.
When you say recycling, when you recycle something, you use the material for some other products.
Correct.
Yeah, like what do you be making out of the, products you
For us, the only product we will be producing and reselling and introducing back into the communities would be the rock and dirt. Because people that say, like, you have an old stoop in front of a building that needs to be replaced. The contractor, whoever it might be, will come and remove a piece of that and a piece of sidewalk. They could bring it to us. We crush it up. Then we can give it back to them for like an underlaying for foundations, pavements, parking lots, that kind of thing.
So for like, yeah, like educating them. Well, as an educating young school teacher.
It basically takes big rocks into smaller rocks so you can handle them for construction materials.
So when I think of the paving of the highway, like when they do the
Asphalt and stuff? We don't do that. That's
I'm just setting an example. Like when I teach the kids, sometimes they don't understand it. I go to the lower level so they understand it clearly. So this is what I'm introducing to you. Now, whatever you recycle, okay, that comes to you, you'll be able to reproduce and make other things out of it that will be productive for your company, for the community, for reselling.
for the community, for us, for the contractors, for everyone involved. Because what happens is every time there's an old road or an old piece of concrete that needs to be ripped out, we can then recycle that, give it back to the contractor, they compact it, and they can build on top of that. So none of this stuff is ever going to be dumped. It can always be anywhere. No, this is going to be reused for new construction materials.
Reuse your product and stuff, you be giving back to the community and you're producing things right. So you also be helping us in terms of donations and bettering the products
Well, absolutely. As a recycling center, we want to see much cleaner streets now. That's going to be the whole thing behind it. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
You don't have a card yet.
Not yet. We don't have permits yet. we're not there quite yet.
You're not there yet.
We wish.
So you mentioned recycling, reusing a lot of these things. What percentage of your, if you're weighing everything up, what percentage of the materials go in gets recycled?
It's tough for us to say right now without having the permits and the facility up and running to give you a 100% accurate gauge of how much of it. A lot of it depends on how much wood, how much paper, how much plastic. Usually, from what I understand from other facilities, it's upwards of 98%.
One other question I have is, you mentioned before the meeting that the underlying zoning doesn't allow you to do anything else. With the site, can you explain what zone you are and what that allows?
It's an M3 zone, heavy
Heavy industrial.
So we couldn't just build an apartment building there per se, or it's heavy industrial use in the IBZ, the industrial business zone.
There has to be places in every community that have an industrial zone in order to support the local communities. And well, we're hoping, sorry.
There was actually a car crushing recycling place there before. So the area where it's going, it's not going to change the nature of the area around it. It's right behind the bowling alley. So it, and then if you go around the corner, there is actually a recycling place already there. You could take your concrete, they recrush it, they reuse it. The contractors call it item 4. We use it a lot to stabilize um, driveway pavement, sidewalks, and it's actually better than bringing in gravel, and it drains better. So it is a good thing.
That's correct, yes. Mhm.
We do have other questions. Let me just go to Ms. Carmen Ortiz, who's online, and then we'll come back to you, sir. Ms. Ortiz?
What's your question? Ms. Ortiz? You're muted.
I know her question.
Yeah, she lives on.
Okay.
Hello, yes. I live
Yes.
right across the street with this company is coming. I already have a construction right across the street from us. They work all night and all day, and 7 days a week, Saturday to, they wake up us at 3 o'clock in the morning to do all the kinds of, rock, whatever they do, they break rocks and everything. Now you're gonna come and do the same? What about our health? What about our children? We have children in this block. They're private houses across the street from where you, and that used to be the rec building. Is that what you're doing? That building that is called the rec, for the recs?
I'm sorry, I missed the address originally, but I don't think we're speaking about the same area. And the DEC and everyone knows that the criteria for opening one of these is within at least 1,000 feet away from any residential area. So there's no homes, hospitals, schools anywhere near us. But to answer your question, we will have the state-of-the-art facility of dust control and all those types of things. And like I said, wouldn't be affecting any residences in the general area.
An environmental study as well. Make sure you add that.
That's correct. Yeah. Extensive environmental studies have been done that go back M3. Yes.
Beatrice?
I'm sorry.
Where is the location again then? Hello, where is the
Under the
location?
solar panels.
The solar panels, that's part of the CTA as part of Going Green.
Do we have any other virtual board members with questions?
Well, I want to know, where is this location? Because he's saying it's not across the street from the house.
Is it 16?
It is, and it's on 233rd Street.
233rd Street.
I'm sorry, 1684 East 233rd Street. It's across the sanitation garage.
You said it's across the street from the sanitation?
Yes.
Correct. Yeah, there's not a residential, within 1,000 feet of us.
By the bridge?
I think she's talking about another, yeah.
Okay.
Atlantic Depot is.
Yeah.
But you didn't have no
Let me just give an
meeting with the
opportunity to others.
community.
Anyone else
You didn't have
virtually
no
with us
meeting
with
the
questions?
community. You should have come around
Beatrice.
to the houses and
Yes, Carl.
put up papers.
Yeah, I have a question for them. As
Go ahead.
chair of the land use committee, what made you think because you had a high level, a lobbyist firm talking for you, that you could go around the community board and hold a public hearing without the community board first.
We we never tried to go around the community board. I actually had a Zoom meeting with Beatrice 2 months ago, talking about the facility, and we sent a mailing to Community Board 12 right here with an invitation to the Zoom meeting 2 days ago, and we sent emails to members of the community board. So
I'm sorry, I didn't get the email.
no problem.
As chair of the land use committee,
We also published the invitation in 4 newspapers, and I disagree that we didn't try. I wish you came 2 nights ago, and it is not my intention to go around you.
first of all, you should have came to the community board to set up the public hearing. It shouldn't have been set up by your lobbyist company, because the community board, under the land use committee or the environmental committee, which is also involved in this, would hold the hearing, and then you will you make your presentation. I think you tried to go around the community board the way it was done, and I don't appreciate it. In the beginning, I thought it was a good idea. Now I'm having second thoughts about putting it there.
We have a lot of asthma and everything here with this block because of the filter you guys bring to the block.
Sherry?
Requirements, how do you mean, ma'am? Oh, sorry. We would be advertising, yes, in all the local newspapers, on our website. We have Co-op City right here, which like 100,000 residents. We're hoping to, employ all the locals, absolutely, into this. That's the reason we're here, to try to get our permits. And as soon as we can, that'll be the first thing we need to do.
And we can work with the board to figure out the best way to let the community know about hiring an applicant.
Absolutely.
Right. Right, our recommendation is always committee first, and then we bring to the full board. We just want to make sure that that procedure is followed, right? Yes.
One last question. This is located very close, if not in,
That is going to be, if you can refer to the website, where there has been a complete EAS that was done for the site. Oh, okay.
All leachate and stormwater will be treated on site and discharged into the New York City sewer system, where it will be treated again. No contamination will reach the Hutchinson River. That's the answer.
We wouldn't say that we're really far from the river. We're high away from the river, and we have soil sediment drainage systems, oil water separators that are, part of the protocol, so that doesn't happen. BaychesterMaterials.com. And all of the relative information that we discussed will be in the repository there. There's the CLCPA, EPA. Okay.
Okay.
Climate leadership and community.
Did you want to say something? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for making it. And we look forward to hearing more information, and we definitely will have more questions. So thank you.
And we're going to have a public hearing on it, by the way.
Okay. We're moving on. That closes our presentations portion of our agenda. We will move on to elected official representatives' reports. Councilmember Eric Dinowitz.
people who are, I get scared.
Okay.
Councilmember Eric Dinowitz, are you here? No? No. We're looking for hands. Anyone with the elected officials representative reports? Cynthia? Can you hear us? Talene
Hi,
said
can you hear
yes.
me?
Oh, okay.
All right, guys, we got to move this along. Cynthia, are you with us?
Move to the next one. You go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Raise their hands.
Hello?
Yes.
Go ahead,
Somebody's
Cynthia.
stepping on you.
Hi, sorry, don't know what was going on there. So, hey everyone, this is Cynthia from Councilmember Kevin Riley's office. Just to go over the usual, phone number is 718-684-5509. Our email is district12, that's district12 at council.nyc.gov. We have an office at 940 East Gun Hill Road and an office at 135 Einstein Loop, room 44. And don't worry, I'll put this all in the chat if I'm going a little fast. And just to give a synopsis of some of the upcoming events in the community, tomorrow we're going to be having the Key to the City Resource Fair. That's Friday, June 23rd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Wakefield Library, 4100 Lowry Place. And then that afternoon, we're actually going to be having an event at the Community Board office with the Office of Cannabis Management. It's going to be a career event for anyone interested in getting involved in the cannabis industry, learning about rules, regulations, how to do things right, and all that. That will be, again, tomorrow, Friday, June 23rd, 5:30 to 7 p.m., Community Board 12, 4101 White Plains Road. This Saturday, there's going to be a Department of Buildings in Your Community event, Saturday, June 24th, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Northeast Bronx YMCA. That's 1250 East 229th Street. This is an opportunity for residents to ask their questions to the Department of Buildings, resolve violations, get some guidance. And I also want to flag the upcoming MTA hearings. This is going to affect tolls in New York City as well as the fares for subway and bus riders. These public hearings will be happening June 22nd, 23rd, and 26th. There's going to be 4 opportunities. And then I also wanted to flag our Caribbean Heritage Celebration that we're going to be having in City Hall Wednesday, June 28th from 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. And that's in Council Chambers. And then lastly, coming back to the Community Board for our rain barrel distribution, Councilmember Riley's office, the Community Board, the Department of Environmental Protection, and Speaker Carl Hasty, we're going to be having a rain barrel distribution. This is for homeowners, businesses, community gardens, just to be able to have a rain barrel to offset some of the rain flow into the ground. This will be Friday, June 30th from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Community Board 12, 4101 White Plains Road. And I'm going to put all this information in the chat, including the RSVP link for the rain barrel distribution and also the main link where you can see all the other events. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Next up, Councilmember Eric Dinowitz.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. I'm looking forward to going back in person because in person, when I say how you all doing, I can actually hear the responses. But on the Zoom on the WebEx, everything's muted. Well, it's good to see you all. First, I want to start out by introducing my new constituent advocate and schedule. Her name's Crystal Diaz. She's on the call. I don't know if you want to unmute and say hello, Crystal.
Hello, everyone.
That's Crystal. She's great. Earlier in this call, she put her information in the chat, so you can reach out to her. As always, you can reach out straight to the General Dinowitz inbox. My office, many of you know, is under construction. The construction's pretty much over. We're still dealing with moving a little furniture around, but you can come in for your constituent needs. It's 277 West 231st Street. To come in, we've already been seeing some constituents about different constituent services that we provide. I was in Wakefield just on Monday. Councilmember Riley, Senator Bailey, and Assemblyman Speaker Hasty had a really wonderful Juneteenth event. DA Clark was there, and the Borough President Gibson was there, and I was there. I shared some remarks, but it was really just important seeing community come together for Juneteenth, which is a holiday that even Assembly Speaker Hasty acknowledged he only learned about I think in his 30s, he said. So I really, really appreciate my colleagues in government, especially Councilmember Riley and the City Council, really bringing community together for Juneteenth. I met with the mayor 2 weeks ago, and I brought up to him again about the car washes. I specifically spoke about Webster Avenue, and I sent the PD a video of there were 20 car washes, not to mention all the trucks parked along there, but 20 car washes the time I drove by. I know it's been a long time. A lot of complaints about those. We did have a meeting, I think, a year and a half ago about it. Got the PD there, got different agencies there, and this is I told him it's a continuous thing. We have to keep up the pressure. So the mayor is aware of that issue, and we'll be working on that. And I hope to have an update for the community board relatively soon on what happens with that. And last two things, every other week, except for the summer, we have a stated meeting. That's where we vote on all of our bills. And the community board 12 and all my community boards receive a legislative update. So every other week, on average, the community board office receives sort of a list and description of all the bills that pass. And just really quickly, we passed a number of things over the past month, including bills to have transparency in healthcare, to make sure hospitals, you actually know how much they're going to charge for like an aspirin or whatever surgery they're doing. And I think something that's going to be really impactful is we passed a package of sanitation, a zero waste act, dealing with composting, dealing with reducing the amount of waste, certain reporting bills, community recycling centers, and organic waste drop-off sites, things like that. And so more details are in the brief that I sent out to the community board. And lastly, we're dealing with the budget. The mayor did propose a budget with a number of pegs. It's called Program to Eliminate the Gap, which cut city agencies most of them by between 3 and 4%. These are the agencies, and when I say agencies, I include like libraries, where our kids go after school, where our older adults go during the day. Where everyone loves the library. I held with Councilman Riley office hours in the Wakefield Library. Department of Buildings that are doing inspections on our buildings. All these agencies were cut. And for us in the council, we're pushing back against a lot of those cuts because we know it means service reductions, especially at a time when constituents are constantly calling our office, saying that they're not getting responses from city agencies or that the city agencies aren't taking care of things. We're fighting cuts to education, both New York City DOE and to CUNY, and I chair the Higher Education Committee, so we're fighting back very hard against cuts to CUNY, and trying to make sure things like the sanitation department get funded so we can have things we fought hard for in the last budget, like twice a day garbage cleanup. So I will leave it there. I don't know if we are doing questions for elected officials because I do see a couple of hands up.
Those,
Okay.
the questions are from, there is just to provide us with their report.
Provide who with what report?
Us, the board. They're with other elected officials' offices.
Oh, those are okay. All right. Again, thank you, everyone. I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Ronell.
Hi, this is Brunel from State Senator Jamal T. Bailey's office. So we have several events this month and next month. So this month, June 28th, we have a community job fair at Bay Plaza Food Court. That's from 1 to 4. You have to RSVP. So that is bit.ly/job fair 36. So if you know anyone in need of a job, please forward that information. I'm not sure if I can copy and paste the image in the chat, but I'll try that afterwards. Also, we have a food distribution at our office every last Wednesday monthly. So our first one will be June 28th at 11 a.m. If you know anyone that's in need of food, please register in advance by Tuesday, June 27th, by calling our office at 718-547-8854. And lastly, we have our annual barbecue. That will be July 22nd. That's a Saturday from 1 to 4 p.m. at our office. Please RSVP because the numbers, I'm sorry, the slots are taken up very fast. So try to call as soon as possible. And we hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Edie.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Adili Espaya from the office of Congressman Jamal Bowman. Our office doesn't have major updates. One thing I would like to flag is that the Congressman's office is hosting mobile constituent services throughout the district. I want to extend a special shout out to Community Board 12 for always being accessible to our office. Our office hours are 9 to 5, Tuesdays through Fridays. Our Mount Vernon office is open and walk-ins are acceptable. If you want any information, I will post our office information in the chat. But that's all I have for you guys, and thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you. Donella?
Hello, everyone. Unfortunately, the Assemblyman couldn't stay on. He does send his hellos. I don't have any announcements at the moment. I hope everyone has a good summer. Regarding the earlier presentation, I will discuss it with him and we will be in communication with the board directly. But that is all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Kiara?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Congratulations on your last meeting for the summer. I'm Kira from the Borough President's Office. I just have a few things to report. The Borough President will be hosting summer concert series throughout the borough. I'll post that flyer in the chat and I'll send it out to the board as well. In addition to that, I just wanted to announce we will be having first, we are still working on new appointments to the board. Obviously, they won't be appointed in time for tonight's meeting, but you'll get them in the next few weeks. We'll be doing a new member orientation as well as a refresher course for current members who are interested in kind of just getting some more information and brushing up on some meeting skills. We're going to be holding a community board appreciation event in early September. More details to come on that as well. We've sent out a code of conduct that we expect all board members to sign and abide by. If you did not get that, please reach out to me. I put my contact information in the chat. And I'm working on the demographic report that's due July 1st. So I've also reached out to board members to fill out a demographic survey. So please work on that as soon as possible. Thank you very much and have a great summer.
Thank you. Just board members, reminder that there's a deadline, right? July 1st for the demographics, July 7th for the code of ethics. Thank you.
Actually, I need the demographics. If they haven't filled it out, by tomorrow or Monday would be best because my report is due on the 1st.
Yeah, George is the first one
with the board members. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that concludes the section of the elected officials and Bronx Borough President's reports. And I just want to take a moment actually to welcome George back. We're super happy to have you back and see you in good spirits. As you all know, we need that fire. There's a lot happening on our board.
Despite my best efforts, I don't have much to say, but despite my best efforts, I've been around for 2,881 days. For 7 years, 10 months, and 20 days. So I am grateful for each and every day. I thank you for being your district manager. We do have a lot to discuss. I'm going to I hope that we sent you an article. There was an article, I think this was in the city, and it was on June 20th, so just 2 days ago, 2 days ago. And it was an article on the Adams administration is far behind on bus infrastructure benchmarks with promises to improve this year. Now, this article speaks to the issues that we have before us now as a community board. The bike lanes, mandated by law. We are woefully behind as a city. There, we're supported by the elected officials. So, you know, I know that we have constituents that call us and say all of this, but it would be really good for these constituents to speak to their elected officials about this, because their elected officials voted for this. So for them to say that they're going to rip out bike lanes, that's not happening. Additionally, we voted in favor of it. I know that they keep coming back to us, but that's not how we operate. We're not going to get bullied into changing our opinion. The second issue is the bus lanes. And this just goes to show you, we've had a conversation with DHS. My beef with DHS is that they have a planning arm within their agency, and they know what shelters are coming. They don't provide us that information until it's very late. So for example, I just went to look at my emails. We didn't find out about 4435 until May 11th. May 11th, they sent us an email, a notification email that they were going to do this. So from May 11th, I understand, and I, you know, despite that I wasn't here, I followed all the emails. We requested, our chair requested a meeting with them so that we could go through, set up a walkthrough. They couldn't, this is the best, this is what they could come up with, was coming to tonight's board meeting to give a presentation. And that's where we're at. I say this because right now, if you go on Gun Hill Road and you go, I don't know, is that west of Webster Avenue? They've already ripped out everything. Webster Avenue, from Bainbridge to Webster on East Gun Hill Road, there are no markings. They're already setting this up. I can't, that's Community Board 7. I cannot speak to what they agreed to. I don't know. But it seems, it's hard for me to believe. I gave you we have a statement from Councilman Riley's office that he's basically not going to support the efforts of the bus lanes from Webster Avenue to the end of our district, which goes one side goes all the way down to the end of Gun Hill Road, the highway, basically I-95. Because of what's happening and the lack of DOT's response to the constituents on the bike lanes. So we're like right smack dab in the middle of it. We're contending with the fact that the city is obligated to do this because the elected officials and the city council voted for this. They were in favor of this. If you read this article, you will see that despite the fact that they all voted in favor of it, some of them are like, no, 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 don't do it on Jamaica Avenue, don't do it on Queens Boulevard, don't do it here, don't do it there. And we're in the same sort of boat. Now, you know, we're getting pushback from a handful of constituents that are saying no, and as a result, our elected officials are now saying that, you know, and I don't want to speak for the committee, I do recall the Department of Transportation held 3 meetings, John, with us on the Gun Hill. None of these things were, I mean, there was concern expressed, but none of these issues were raised. I don't want to speak out of school. So, you know, the fact that, you know, I guess my curiosity is, will DOT stop on Webster Avenue? Because it doesn't make sense for them to do Bainbridge to Webster if they're not going to continue it all the way down to the bus turns on Bartow Avenue. So that's my point. These agencies have an obligation to do things. As a community, we can push back to a certain extent, but I want you to understand that it's not all in vain, our pushback. You know, you can see they painted some of the areas, the safety zones of the bike lane. So that they did that just yesterday. So that's pretty nice. Like, you know, it's starting to come together, but I think that the problem that we have was the implementation. You still have vehicles parked in the bike lanes. The bike lanes are rendered ineffective as a result of the vehicles parked in the bike lanes. The bike lanes were built, and that was our concern, was the safety. We did a safety corridor. I have the same concern, which I'm going to raise when I spoke earlier about meeting with Inspector Corabell, because when I first got here, and Benga is now on the board, but Benga came to the community board to complain about speeding on Baychester Avenue. And we, as a community board, voted for safety improvements. It went to committee, the committee voted in favor of it. And now you have the teachers at Philip Sousa double parking on Baychester. And it's just nonsensical to me. I'm like, why are they double parking? I've made this complaint, I've called 311, with the former inspector, Inspector Nunez, and I will say that, the one thing that I will say that's changed me, and I don't like to speak about what happened to me because I get still a little emotional. It's still 3 months. But I'm not going to, as hard as it may seem, I always reserved myself when I was talking about agencies. I try not to reveal names, try not to go after people. I'm going to be nicer. I shouldn't say I'm going to be nicer, but I'm not going to hold my tongue. I'm not going to be disrespectful, but I'm not going to hold my tongue. Eric Adams ran for mayor talking about wanting to eliminate silos. That was the word he used. He said agencies operated in silos, meaning that, they had blinders on, and DOB just did DOB stuff, DOT just did DOT stuff, and so on and so forth. And he wanted to do away with that. He wanted interagency coordination so that they can roll out some of these initiatives, and he wanted them all working together to create efficiencies. And I think that that's great. But the problem is they rolled out the bike lanes, and it's been an unmitigated disaster because we've gotten no help from any other city agency, namely the NYPD, namely the 4-7 precinct, namely the inspector, because this is a top-down bureaucracy. They're like the military. If the commanding officer doesn't say go write summonses, they're not going to write summonses. It's not going to be a priority for them. And that's what we're faced with as a community. How do we hold these folks accountable? I don't want to call out, Alfredo sits on the 47th Precinct Council. I know that he's reached out to the commanding officer to speak about these things. And I will say the one thing that Alfredo said to me is like, oh, I'll ask them for a favor, to do this sort of thing. We shouldn't be asking for favors. This is their responsibility. This is what they should be doing. This is the law. And one of the interesting things, and this will be the final thing that I say that I find really fascinating, is that everybody talks about how city services are slow to respond, maybe non-responsive, and they give all sorts of excuses where we have such a high vacancy rate of employees. They're not there, so they can't do their job. But whenever I speak to an agency, they always say, oh, we have what we need. We don't need any more. And that can't be the case. Either you have enough employees to do the job or you don't. And, again, when I speak to these agencies, I'm like, well, can I get enforcement out there to write a summons? I'm not even asking NYPD to tow cars anymore. I think a summons will do, and we're not even getting that courtesy. And I think it's very frustrating for me. Ursula jokes that she's going to retire. I have to talk her out of it every day because she feels ineffective. But this is the reality that we face. I mean, Ursula, she's the heart and soul of the sport. She's been here for 23 plus years. And, she could be able to call an agency, and we knew them. Like, we knew the agency reps. And we could be like, hey, whatever, DEP, I need you to clean a catch basin. Now it's got to work its way through the 311 process, in addition to going to the borough office, in addition to going through whatever, OKs and all that stuff. So I say all that to say, it's fascinating to me because as a city, we should be able to respond to these things. Writing a summons, I don't know if I said this today this morning at Borough Board meeting, DOB was rolling out Local Law 97, which is energy efficiency and emissions, and they're trying to reduce the greenhouse gases that buildings are emitting. So part of Local Law 97 was that, I'm forgetting how much, I think it was like $268 per metric ton if they did not meet the standard. So there's a whole Q&A. But the point that I made to the professional engineer that was there that was representing DOB, he was like, listen, we don't want to be punitive. We don't want to hit these buildings over the head. We have these violations to sort of motivate them. And I said to him, it's a very well-known, documented fact that, again, it might be even more, but this was a couple of years ago. DOB had amassed or written violations in excess of 1.3 billion, not million, $1 billion in violations. But they're a paper tiger. Unless that building owner comes to the buildings department to request a permit, they may not necessarily have to deal with that issue. It's only when you're a homeowner, you have an illegal occupancy in your basement, and you need a permit because you want to get a kitchen remodel, electrical, plumbing, whatever it is, they'll say, oh, hey, wait a minute, you got all these violations, you got to handle them. And then they'll negotiate. So my point is, you know, we have these rules in effect, and I think that as city agencies, especially in light of the fact that the Adams administration keeps asking for what's called as budget cuts, PEGs, the plan to eliminate the gap between what we have and what we don't have, or tax revenue. If you're asking for PEGs from agencies, then that means that we're hurting financially. Community Board 12 is in very danger. This is my issue of like trying to pay our bills this year at the end of the year because we're just running out of money. We think OMB is taking our money, but that's a whole nother conversation. But that's where we're at. And I think that when you couple everything that's going on, there are easy ways to make money in the city. And all the angle parking that you see on White Plains Road is illegal. That's not the way it's supposed to be. People parking in the safety zones or the loading zones on White Plains Road is illegal. People double parking on Baychester. All the trucks, the tractor trailers parked in the median on 222nd Street or the Nereid Avenue Bridge, everywhere. We're aware of it as a community board. We make the complaints. Since I've come back, I've been on super on a tear of calling 301 to make these complaints, and really it's been radio silent. But I wanted to address the issue with the bike lanes because I know the constituents come to us, and that's part of our job. Part of our job is being an ombudsman. We're supposed to listen to these complaints. But this is why they do it. This is why they put the bike lanes in. This is why the bus lanes are important. And they have I forget what it's called, but it's a plan. There's a streets plan for the whole city of New York. And the mayor ran on this. He said he was going to build 150 lanes of bike lanes and bus lanes. And the commissioner said the same thing. Yet here we are dealing with constituents that, and the thing is, it's a very small minority of constituents that are saying this. But this is where it comes from. This is legislation. The community board didn't vote on these bus lanes or let me just take that back. We did vote on the bike lanes in support of them. But the reason for it is right here. So I urge you to read this article. I think Ursula shared with you another article on shelters. There's been a lot of interesting stuff. I know we send you a lot of emails. I apologize for that, but anything that I find interesting, I try to educate and let the board know that there's a reason why the city does the certain things that they do. And I want you to understand the stuff that I understand because I'm not the smartest, I'm not the brightest bulb on Broadway. And I do need your help to do this sort of thing. I need to know that when I go into a room and I meet with a commissioner that you have my back, that I can say I'm speaking for Community Board 12. I say that all the time when people come to us. I say I can't speak because we didn't vote. But when we did vote or when we have voted, there's no equivocation on my part. We're supportive of the bike lanes. We're going to continue to be supportive of the bike lanes despite everybody's best efforts. We're not going to be bullied into changing our opinion. I don't know what happens with the bus lane. I don't know if we're going to take a vote on that. I think we should. Because again, I do find it fascinating. What is DOT going to do for our neck of the woods? What are they going to do past Webster Avenue? And we're going to find out soon enough because, like I said, if you travel west of Webster, you'll see the changes. And that's what's coming to us. It's going to be very chaotic. And that's my report. I have some stuff to say later on, but thank you. Oh, and thank you. While I was out, the love and support that you guys showed to me, I really am truly touched. Like I said, I don't like to think about it because I get emotional, so I don't want to talk about it, but thank you. It really was heartfelt.
Thank you, and welcome back again, George. We're going to continue with the agenda. We still have a lot to cover. Next up on the agenda is the approval of board minutes for our last board meeting on May 25th. Thanks again, Michelle, for doing that for us diligently. We appreciate you. So I'd like to take a motion to approve the board minutes for May 25th. Okay, John Isaac first, and who was second? Mr. Robert Hall seconded. All in favor?
I'm so used to this. Are there any nays? Any abstentions? Lucille? Okay, anyone else? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're moving on to our financial report. Ms. Talene? Ms. Talene, we can't hear you.
It's on.
Okay, we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I said this will be the quickest thing you've heard all evening. We are still at 2625. The Sunshine Fund letter will go out, I believe, sometime in August for next year. You all look wonderful. Glad to see you, family. Take care, be safe. And I do have an education meeting coming up on Tuesday.
We'll be there. Thank you, Talene. Okay, we are moving on now to committee reports. First up, transportation and capital projects.
Good evening, everyone. The Transportation and Capital Improvements Committee met Thursday, June 8th at 7 p.m. Via WebEx, and we heard from Wakefield Leasing Maintenance for a base license renewal. Wakefield Leasing Maintenance handles medical transportation, like they take the patients to and from like their medical visits to the doctors. There were no problems with the 47th precinct, so the committee voted unanimously to support a renewal of this business that's been supported our community. We also had a presentation by the Design Trust for Public Spaces, Ms. Elena Arnsberg, presented, and she actually showed the type of improvements that you could take desolate places within the city and actually turn them into vibrant places that people could use, where it could be a playground, skate park, farmer's market, anything. So one of the areas that we were looking at was under the L at between 212 and 213 on White Plains Road. 211. Thanks, Luke. So that's, they can't hear me? So I would have to come over.
Can you hear John now?
Can you hear me, guys?
Can you hear John now? Yes, they could hear you.
Okay, they could hear me. Okay. All right, great. So we need a letter of support. They can't hear me? Sorry about that, guys. So we need a letter of support for this Wakefield Leasing to continue their base license of this medical transport this evening. The committee recommends that we renew this license for this company. They have no problems with the 47th precinct. There no complaints from their neighbors or anything like that. They're located at 4 4632 White Plains Road. A motion.
Can we get a motion to approve?
No, first we need a motion to accept the report from the committee, and then we need a motion to send a letter.
Can you identify yourself when you say
Luke.
motion and who accepts and who seconded the motion?
Quincy.
Quinn, thank you. Sometimes they don't hear all that.
Okay. Second. Now we need a motion to send a letter in support of the Wakefield Leasing Maintenance Corporation.
Please, thank you. For Michelle, so she can hear you.
Also, on the record, I just want to let you guys know that Miss Ortiz was on last week, and or when we met, and she was complaining about the traffic and the noise around Corner Street where she lives. That's where the new, the guys that came earlier, they want to, Baychester Materials, and it is an issue over there, Corner Street. They'll have the asphalt place over there already, and they always have recycling places. So, but they're right. They're actually really close to her though. They're at the across the street from sanitation. We checked their address. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. And coming up, I'm actually want all the elected officials that's on to pay attention to what's going on with these guys flying up and down the street with these racing cars. Like my block, my mom is visiting from Florida, and she's like so scared. Like the whole house shakes with these guys. I mean, they literally, one of these days, they're going to go straight into the park. And it's really bad. Michelle was on my block the other day, and we were talking, and a car just passed by, and she could tell you, it is really, we have to do something about this, and it's people. It's not people that don't live in this neighborhood. It's people that live here that's doing that, and someone is going to get hurt. All right, and that's it. Thank you, guys.
I'm going to try and make it as brief as I can for both motions. I'm going to ask for one thing, and then I'll just double it. All those in favor of approving the minutes and the letter of support, say aye.
Aye.
Those who say nay. No nays? Any abstentions? Any recusals? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Great. Now we're moving on to Parks and Recreations Committee report. Ms. Bond, we can't hear you.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. My voice is a little bit raspy. I've been a bit under the weather, but so on June 13th, Parks and Rec Committee had a meeting. There are two points that I just want to bring up from the meeting. One is that we need to vote on a letter of support, and we have just well, let me go right for. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. The minutes for the meeting, we had a presentation from Mr. Hanson from the New York Restoration, and I hope I'm getting this correct. I'm a little bit groggy. New York Restoration. Help me out, Mr.
New York Restoration Project.
Thank you. There you go. New York Restoration Project. And in reference to the location. He's going to give you a brief slide about that because not everyone was at the meeting. So I just want you to have one brief slide so you understand exactly what we're going to asking for a letter of support on. And secondly, that there, in terms of the Woodlawn pedestrian bridge, there will be a meeting on Monday, June 26th, and I will share that at the end of the meeting so that you can see the poster and the location and time of that meeting on Monday evening. So, Mr. Hanson, go ahead. Go right ahead.
Sure, I'm going to share my screen. Do you guys see my screen?
Yes, it's coming up. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So I'll be very brief because I know it's been late. It's a late night, and if anyone has any questions, please let me know. But New York Restoration Project, in case you haven't heard of us, we are an environmental justice non-for-profit. We steward 52 community gardens and 2 parks, High Bridge Park and Sherman Creek Park. Of the 52 community gardens, the majority of them are in the Bronx, including Eastchester Road Community Garden, which is located at 3634 Eastchester Road. This garden has been an asset to the community for over 25 years. And after all this time, there's been a lot of wear and tear. And we are getting money from New York State to perform capital improvements to 6 community gardens, 5 of which are in the Bronx, and 1 of them is in Brooklyn. With the money we're getting from the state, we're going to be installing new irrigation water systems. We're going to be adding new raised garden beds. And we're going to be making it more storm resilient by putting porous pavements so rainwater could absorb easier, put new benches and plant new shrubs to modernize the garden. So this is really exciting capital improvements. As a part of us collecting the money from New York State in order to perform these capital renovations, we have to go before all the community boards to get a municipal letter of support. And obviously, there are 6 gardens. We have to go to 5 community boards, so we're definitely scrambling before the summer break. So I'll stop there. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hanson. So if we can vote to accept the minutes coming from the Parks and Rec meeting, and then also in favor of the committee did vote unanimously to support this capital project. So if we could have that vote, please. First on the minutes, then on the letter of support.
I make a motion that we accept.
Michelle made a motion to accept. Can we get a second? John Isaac, second. To accept the committee report. Continue, Ms. Bond.
We just have to take, I thought it was, all right. Well, all we have to do now is just vote on the letter of support. So that was the minutes. Now we just need the letter of support.
Motion to accept.
Can I have a motion for the letter of support, please?
Motion to accept the letter of support. Sorry. No, motion to approve.
Luke Sabados put in a motion to approve the letter of support. And who did the second? Mr. Robert Hall seconded.
Okay. We can't hear anything on this end, so it's a little awkward.
I'm getting ready to call for the vote. I'm going to do the same thing I did before. Those all in favor of, say aye.
Aye.
Do I have any nays? Any abstentions? Any recusals?
I can't hear what is being said.
It said you have 1 no vote.
No, not I heard you, Mr. Stricker. I mean, we can't hear what they're saying.
The
okay.
ayes have it. Thank you.
Great. Moving on. Land Use Committee. Mr. Carl Stricker.
Yes, Land Use Committee had a meeting on two topics. And one was extension of a variance for a gas station at 3400 Baychester Avenue, and the number is 175-1000-8Z111, and it's asking for a waiver of rules of practice for the from city planning resolution, which is H65N23018ZRY, carbon neutrality. We had a hearing. There was much discussion on it. A new company, Global, took over this gas station at 3400 Baychester Avenue, has invested quite a bit of money in upgrading the station, putting in new fuel tanks, and removing the soil that may have been contaminated, and improved the looks of the station. And also, I believe this week they paved the sidewalk. So the committee voted in favor of approving the extension for 10 years, dating back to 2021, which was during the pandemic and nobody was doing anything. So it would be dated back. So the next time it would come up for renewal would be in the year 2031. So I need a motion from someone to approve the committee's report.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Now I need a motion to send a letter to the Board of Standards and Appeals to approve the extension of 10 years.
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion?
To send a letter to BSA for the extension of the BSA permit.
Second, Don.
Okay. Do we have a vote in favor?
Carl, in reference to the zero carbon emission, you want that separate?
No, that's part of the thing.
That's part of it also?
Yeah.
Carl, can I just mention something, Carl, for that City of Yes, the zero carbon emissions, we have since heard from them. We don't have to make a decision now. They asked if they can come back to committee in September.
Sorry, I got that stuck into the other one. I'm sorry.
For the zero carbon.
Carbon neutrality is not part of this resolution.
Okay. It's not part of this resolution, he said.
Of course, we didn't take a vote on carbon neutrality.
We're
because we didn't have
tabling
a-
that. We're tabling that part till September. We just heard from them.
Okay.
Okay, good. Same thing again, approval of the minutes and the approval of the extension of the variance. Those in favor, say aye. Any abstentions? Any nays?
I would like to make a nay against the global gas variance. Thanks.
You're a nay? Hold on. But you're in favor of the minutes?
And I'm a no vote.
Are you in favor of the minutes, Lou? You're going to abstain on the minutes? And you're saying nay on the...
Yeah, I'm saying nay on global gas.
Okay.
And I'm going to abstain on the minutes because I haven't received.
Okay. So so far I have one nay in reference to the extension of the variance. And I also have an abstention on the minutes. Anyone else? Ms. Goff has left, so I'm going to mark her as not present for both these motions? Or the ayes have it in reference to this land use project?
Okay, that's the end of my report. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Carl.
Carl.
Carla, so we're tabling that? Or you're next. Are we tabling that? In September. Great. Okay, we're moving on. Ms. Benitez, Economic Development and Business Services Committee.
Last Thursday, the Economic Development had a brief meeting to go over the renewal of Peppers at 4564 White Plains Road. It's a wine and beer renewal license. We haven't heard anything negative about them, and that's the report. Can I get a motion to approve the report?
Second, John.
In reference to approving, the committee is recommending to the board that we approve the renewal license for Peppers. I need a motion for that.
Second, John.
In reference to both, do I have? Alfredo. Let me go back to the minutes. I'm going to break that down for you because the fact that I know I have some nays coming up. In reference to the minutes, are there any negatives in reference to the minutes? No? Okay. In reference to renewal, do I have a negative? A negative? No?
No.
Okay. So I have an aye for both, unanimously, no abstentions, no negatives, no recusals. Thank you very much. This has been very sweet. The ayes have it.
Thank you, Ms. Benitez. All right, we're moving on. We have one last item on our agenda under new business. Actually, two. The first, you heard Kiara earlier from the Bronx Borough President's Office about the Code of Conduct and the survey. Please make sure you fill those out as soon as possible for the survey, and Code of Conduct is due by July 7th. And then the last topic of conversation that we have is regarding the shelters, sanctuary homes. We heard a presenter earlier for the drug treatment center in our district. And, we've all been having these conversations that we really need to be intentional with how we envision our district. What are we accepting? What are we in favor of? And what do we not want to see within this district? So I'm going to ask George to address this for us, since he's very knowledgeable as to what's been historically happening in our district.
So, hello everyone once again. I referenced an article, there was an article in the city June 14th. The title of the article was a joke. Bronx community boards in poor neighborhoods say they're already saturated with shelters. Again, I hope we shared this with you. I hope you get an opportunity to read it. We're actually partnering up. This was an article about Rafael Moret at Community Board 6 to the south of us. And it speaks to this issue. This is a map from 2021. It was a Turning the Tide map. And, there's a Turning the Tide map. And it broke down every community board in the city of New York and what they had and didn't have in terms of shelters. I got today, an email today, literally, from DHS, a list of all our shelters. So when I started here, August 3rd, 2015, we had 4 shelters. And for up Maychester Motel, which is now Opus Hotel, on 222nd Street in Eli, 1442 East 222nd Street, and 2101 Needham Avenue. We're both operating Vincent Hartshare. Ira McClinton was newly appointed to the board. They came to make a presentation to the board. They had promised all these improvements, which they never made. And that's actually why they cut the contract with the shelter. Now, you will recall, as board members, recent board members, as soon as they closed those two shelters, they told us like a month later that they were opening up the Tilden Street shelter. And it was almost like a gotcha, like, oh, we reduced the number of shelters by 2, you only had 2, so you're woefully under, don't have anything in your district. We took that shelter. We've taken other shelters. According to DHS, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shelters. 9 shelters, I'm sorry. I didn't count Monty, 4320 Bronx Boulevard. I will not give the addresses because once they're occupied, we're not allowed to divulge the addresses of these shelters. I had made the statement before, we have 9 shelters, 6 of them are in Eric Dinowitz's neck of the woods. He has, I want to say he has 12, because he has one that's coming to Community Board 8 on Broadway. I think it's like 6661 or something like that, Broadway. He has 4 in Community Board 7. He has 3 in Community Board 8, which is Riverdale. And he has 6 in Community Board 12. I like to speak with facts, so I'm not going to make this as a factual statement. But my concern is that 50% of the shelters that get attributed to that council member are located in a very small square mile area of Community Board 12. Community Board 12, everything north of 233rd Street is Councilman Dinowitz. That's his neck of the woods. The majority of our district is represented by Councilmember Riley. So Councilmember Riley's also stretches into other community boards. It goes to Community Board 11 and other places. So I don't have all the numbers, but that's what this map represented. So I will say, when I first saw this map and made notice of it back in December 31st of 2019, the Bronx had 155 DHS shelters compared to 105 Manhattan shelters, 65 Queens shelters, Brooklyn had 122, Staten Island had 1. And as you know, during the de Blasio administration, they combined HRA and DHS to be one agency under the leadership of Stephen Banks. This was the last map that I got, March 31st, 2021, and the numbers dramatically changed. Manhattan went from 104 in July of 2019 to 114 shelters, 15 stopgap locations closing under Turning the Tide, and 31 temporary commercial hotels to do COVID-19. The Bronx went from 154, we lost shelters, to 129 shelters, to 25 stopgap locations under Turning the Tide, and 2 temporary emergency commercial hotels to combat COVID-19, one of which was 4747 Bronx Boulevard. If you recall, they opened up as a COVID shelter. We had a big fight about that as well. They do this one in alphabetical order. So Brooklyn went from, in 2019, to having 124 shelters to having 130 shelters. 20 stopgap locations, 17 temporary shelters. Queens went from having 64 to having 75 shelters, and Staten Island still only has 1. For board members that recall, I put a demographic sheet together based on city planning's numbers. I shared it with everyone. I'll share it again, but I have to update the numbers. And this just doesn't impact our board. And DHS, and that's why I say, like, I try to be respectful. The Bronx has shouldered the burden of homelessness for a very long time. Other parts of the city were contributing far more to the homeless shelter system, or contributing people, clients, individuals, citizens, our people, our citizens, into the shelter system, and they weren't doing their fair share. And I think what we've come up with for budget consultations, this is our one chance as as a community board. We do budget consultations, we meet with the agencies individually, and we discuss borough-wide issues, not district issues. So I can't sit there and say, oh, you know, you gave us 8 shelters, blah, 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 blah. But I point to the numbers here. Even now, I mean, they're trying to make the contention that Brooklyn now has one more shelter, this is based in 2021, than the Bronx. But in 2019, it went from 154 shelters, and Brooklyn had 124, so we were beating them by 30. What changed? There's no change in this. The only difference is, and that's what I wanted to speak to you guys about, because it's not just about shelters. What do we want this district to look like? We've had people come before us as a community board for supportive housing, mental health issues. We've been very supportive, I think maybe too supportive. And again, I'm only talking, or I try to talk when I speak to the agencies, with what the community board votes for. So I guess what I'm trying to ask you, and I want us to have a very serious conversation. Community Board 6 is trying to muster all the other, put all the other community boards together to have this conversation with DHS. But I make the case, places like Community Board 12, they rezone White Plains Road. Right now, White Plains Road is mostly one-story taxpayers. So from AD Avenue, where our district begins on White Plains Road, all the way up to 243rd Street, it's mostly one-story taxpayers. Buildings like ours are rare. We're a 3-story building. You don't see that mostly. Right across the street, you see a 2-story, but at the end of the block, you see 1-story. Right at the end of this block, there's 1-story, and then it continues up until 233rd, with certain exceptions. That's going to change. And the contention that we're making now is that we're letting the real estate industry dictate where these shelters are being placed. The issue with Praxis is that Praxis bought a building, built it out, did everything that they did, and then they went to DHS and said, hey, this is our portfolio. You pick where you want to put the shelters. And that's what's happening. Mark Stagg is a prolific developer in the Bronx. The fear with Stagg is that he does have a relationship with DHS, and I forget the development company that built the site on Tilden Street. If anybody remembers, they can blurt it out. It was initials. It was like HKF or something like that, development. What was it? Yeah, SKD, thank you. Yeah. So they came before us, and the gentleman actually told us. He was like, listen, I turned over my list of buildings that I had coming online, and DHS said, oh, we'll take this one. And I know that wasn't a conversation that happened on Monday, and by Friday they made a decision. That was a conversation that took a very long time, because you have to negotiate the price. You have to basically negotiate the price and the terms of the agreement, and you get lawyers involved, and everybody knows that it doesn't, that's not something that happens overnight. It's a process. And all I'm saying to DHS is that you should involve community boards earlier in that process. Because the idea that you were just notified that somebody at DHS, whether it was the commissioner or not, said, oh yeah, we're now going to open up Praxis, that it's just hard to swallow. But at the same time, just to show that I'm not heartless, we do have this issue, and we have to have this conversation. And so the last thing I'll say on this is that we should be considerate of that fact. I don't think that we have to change our policies on supportive housing for those with drug addiction or mental health issues or whatever it is. I think that we should be supportive of those efforts of housing those people. But I think that it should be a mix. If you followed the news in the last year, one of the more controversial things that de Blasio did was that he rezoned Soho. Um, and a lot of people in Soho were pissed off that he rezoned it because they wanted to build affordable housing. Um, my contention is that Soho is perfect for it because Soho is already overdeveloped. You could stick 1,000 new apartments in Soho in the middle of Midtown or at the end, and it wouldn't impact anything. It's an older community, and I'm not talking about age. I'm just saying that the buildings are there, the infrastructure is already there, the subways are there, everything is there. They're not here. So if all the new construction that's coming up here is all supportive housing, then people might feel a different sort of way about wanting to move here. If all they see are supportive housing and people with services related. If you recall, several years ago, well, it opened up in the last year, but several years ago we took a diversion center, which was run by the Department of Health to deal with people who were suffering from mental health issues and drug issues. It's sort of a shelter. They get clean and they go and they get the services that they need at the diversion center. And our questions back then were, why are you building it here? Why are you building it in Community Board 12? Because we're not the #1 district for EDP complaints, but we were the #1 district for 911 calls in the Bronx. But for me, there wasn't a direct correlation other than we were #1. The 47 was #1 for 911 calls. There were 3 other precincts in the Bronx that had this, but my point about real estate picking the locations for these sites is we had the space. I've spoken to my elected officials about this. They all say it's cheaper up here, and it is. Buying a building in Soho for hundreds of millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars is not going to be economically feasible to put a shelter or anything like that because they're going to be losing money. But I think, we have a law called the Fair Share Law, and I think that the city, if they need to pay a little extra to do this, and I know that that's not a fiscally sound thing to say, but in order for equity to be had, that's the way it has to be. And that's all that I'm saying. There are older communities. You can look at the South Bronx right now. South Bronx is a perfect example. It's so popular and hot right now in the South Bronx that they're building homes without the 421 tax aid credit. They're not asking for any sort of subsidy. And then once it's built, they're asking for $4,000 or $5,000 a month in rent. And they're getting it. It's quite a remarkable thing. And I will say that despite all of this development, and again, this might be slightly controversial, I live in Co-op City. You all know this. I've been wanting to buy a home for a very long time, but I feel like I'm priced out of the market for it because homes in this district, homes in 10466, homes in 10467 are exploding. You are all homeowners. The value of your homes, according to whatever you're paying on your property, you can see it. They should be giving you a record, and you can go on DOF's website, the Department of Finance website, and see my house 10 years ago was $300,000, and today it's worth $700,000, $800,000. Yeah, I mean, we have some $1 million homes. We have homes that are like $999,000, and it's remarkable. But that's the environment that we're in. So I just think as a community board, maybe we should sit down, have a conversation about what we want this community to look like, so that when people do come before us, we're not really wasting time. Like, oh, okay, we're okay with that. Let's say yes. Okay, we're not okay with that. And the reason, we should be able to tell people why we're not okay with it. We should have certain benchmarks as a community and say, well, this is what we're expecting. This is what we'd like to see. Again, every agency, we just talked about the streets plan for DOT. These guys have a plan, despite the fact that they don't share it. DHS has a plan, despite the fact that they don't share it. So that's all. That's what I've been talking to Beatrice's. I've been talking her ear off. Sorry.
No, I appreciate it.
And I think that because again, it's just her and I, but I think you guys need to be involved in that conversation because this really is a big task. One of the things that I'm trying to do now is create a mapping function. And I'm not the best person technologically, but I'm trying to, I have the addresses of these places. I'm going to try and do and recreate this map that DHS, because that's the thing, DHS will not recreate this map. Because again, it doesn't bolster their argument that they're being equitable. So it's off their website. This is the last map from 2021. We're now June 2023. So, they claim that because they're no longer doing turning the tide, that it's no longer feasible for them to do it, but I find that hard to believe. But again, the point for us is I want us to have that conversation, and then we can look at the mapping function that, I'm working on and figure it out. One of the things that the city did that was great, and I think actually, I want to give credit to Luke for this. These contracts are now all on Passport, which is a city website, and we can look that stuff up. So we can see how much the contract, if you want to explain it, we can look this stuff up and see where these things are at. And it's a really beneficial tool because it helps us so that we know what we're talking about when people come to us. But that's all I wanted to say on this issue.
Thank you. Thank you, George, for super important information. And again, we are here as volunteers, but we've been given this role, and I think it's time that we do take it seriously as a board. This is why I've been calling everybody. Your participation absolutely matters. Even for us to pass things, we have to meet a quorum with this hybrid model. We have to be in person, the majority of us, to meet that quorum, and for us to pass our ideas and our wants. It's important for us to think of what is coming down our corridors, who's living here, our kids, our elders, ourselves. And so, we have been accepting of certain things, but I think it's time that we take a stance as a board as to what we want to see. And so we'll be asking everybody to really participate, look at your emails, pay attention to the meetings and the things that we are sharing, because we are coming across a lot on our board. And if we don't pay attention, things will be passed. We are advisory, so things are passed, but at least if we take a stance on it, then it'll be on record. Yes, Mr. Hall.
Say that again?
Yes.
Oh. You know the address of that one?
It's next to the funeral. Next to the funeral.
Okay.
Right. We appreciate that, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Hall, and those that are doing their homework. Please, the more information you bring to us, we're more powerful together, and so we're asking everybody to do your due diligence and homework. Yes. Right. Thank you. Yes, we have some hands up. We're going to start with the ones that are here in our room, and then we'll go to our board members who are virtual. Yes, Deborah?
I can hear it. Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, sorry.
There's the Dollar Tree that's on, I believe it's 212th Street and White Plains Road. In the early mornings, the garbage that is outside of that store is just ridiculous. I leave home at 5:30 in the morning, and you can see garbage from where the store starts to where the store ends on the corner. You see vermin running in and out of it. It is just ridiculous. And I just like to know, what do we do to address that? It's ridiculous. And it's like every other day.
Yeah, I'll send an email to the superintendent for both enforcement. So, you guys are homeowners. You know there's routing hours, right? So that also, my understanding, exists for commercial areas. They can't write summonses during certain times. So there's a very brief window in the morning and there's a very brief window in the evening when they can do enforcement. So, but I will make the complaint. Our superintendent's pretty good. I'll let him know, and you know, I'll copy you. Let me just write it down so I know to send you the email.
Yeah, unfortunately, people who are online, our board members who are online, they can't hear us unless you come up here. So if you have anyone else with questions, if you can come up, that would be great.
Oh no, this question was about garbage on 212 and White Plains Road, so we're just addressing that.
Prior to that, we did not
Anything
hear
else?
Mr. Hall, what Mr. Hall said.
Go ahead,
We did not hear Mr. Hall.
Okay. Mr. Deacon Brown, can you come up so they can hear you? Yeah,
Well,
but he has a question.
we can repeat it.
Can you come up?
Okay,
They
a few
can't
months
hear.
ago, I saw a demonstration at the Throat Neck area where they wanted to rezone and develop housing over there. And the residents, they took to the street, demonstrated. They said they were sold out by Vasquez, the representative, and the Bronx DA. Now, they said they didn't want no redevelopment, they didn't want nothing. That was their residence, and that was their children residence. So my question is this, these things are happening around us here, do we have the stamina or the zeal or the energy to get out there and do the same thing?
That's what we're asking for that energy, so that we can. It's going to take all of us. Can you come up here so they can hear you?
Hey, I just wanted to note that building 739 East Gun Hill Road, it was put on the housing lottery about 5 days ago. So unfortunately, the lowest AMI is 130%, which for a one person starts at $73,000. But they've got 40 units here, so if it's 40 units on Housing Connect, there's probably many more that aren't. And you know, I don't know the structure of how these things are funded, but there's probably some market rate, and who knows, maybe that market rate will be used by DHS. But in general, you know, George mentioned that homeowners' housing values are skyrocketing. And you know, meanwhile, on White Plains Road, even though there's like R6 and R7 zoning, which can allow for 6 stories, sometimes 7 stories, the way that we've constructed, or the city and the state have constructed our real estate, is that in order for affordable housing to be built, everybody has to be squeezed. And the renters are facing it right now. Eviction rates are high because there's no affordable housing being constructed. They've got to move elsewhere. And this creates a situation where we have displacement. So the way we address displacement is creating affordable housing, which is not always the easiest political thing. But I think we should be championing in the streets, saying, hey, the people who live here and are being raised here, they deserve to have safe, affordable places to live in the district, and we're not building that. So it's complex, and especially since the state hasn't really given us much this session. We don't have any kind of subsidized construction of affordable housing. So right now, everything has to be kind of pushed to market rate. So it goes back to this thing where home prices will skyrocket because there's such demand and there's so little supply, until it just flips, where somebody meets that price and then they're like, all right, I'm out of here, I'll sell my house.
I just want to say a quick apologize to the people who are online. We understand you guys can't hear. We're trying to repeat, and we're asking board members to come here to speak. So again, I don't know why it's not working for us today, but we will get it straight hopefully by September. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, come up here.
You can hear my mom.
They can't hear you.
What do they consider affordable? Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
people that work in those buildings can't even afford an apartment. Like, you building a building, you can't even live in it.
the federal, so AMI is a mean. So Anthony's question was about who can afford affordable housing when they're charging so much for rent, which is a fair question. What Luke just mentioned is that you said it was 130% of AMI. That's the lowest. There's 3 tiers, is my understanding, of HPD housing. They have tier 1, which is the lowest, and you'll see that. And sometimes, I don't know if they're still doing it, but they used to do what's called mix and match, and they would use different types of, so you would have very low tiers, which were affordable to certain people in certain things. But I will say, I mean, this is something that Ursula and I have a conversation about all the time. It's affordable for who? The problem is that we're in New York City, and again, I don't want to say this incorrectly, so if anybody knows this officially, I've asked this numerous times because I share your concern. But I think we can, I mean, I understand Luke's point. I do. But I've always said you need to have a mix. So if you're going to do supportive housing, you should have AMIs at 130. My concern, if that's the Stag building you're talking, is that the Stag building you're talking about? Oh, no, I understand. No, I understand, but I'm saying it should be at 130. And I say this because folks like myself, I'm no longer a spring chicken, but you have our students that are coming out, they're professionals, they want to live in the district, they want to, they're lawyers, they're doctors, they're all this other stuff. And they want places to live that have all the amenities. And sometimes you have to, it's market rate, that's what they feel like they can charge. But again, if this is the Mark Stagg building that you're talking about that Robert mentioned, it is. So the concern with that address would be that he purposely marketed at that high AMI so that he can then say to the city, I'm not filling it up. We had that conversation. What's the address? 761 East 233rd Street? Yeah. We got a phone call from a constituent. That's another Mark Stagg building next to the firehouse on 233rd Street. And we got a call from a constituent that they were loading mattresses into the building, that there was an 18-wheeler, and they were unloading mattresses and bringing it into the building. We quickly called DHS and we said, hey, what's going on here? Nothing. If you board members recall, for those who have been here for a little bit, we had to squeeze Mark Stagg in order to get Adolfo Carrion, who is now the HPD commissioner, to come to the board to speak to us about that address. And he promised that it was never going to be a shelter. But again, my suspicion with developers like Mark Stagg is that they do this purposely because he's going to then come back and say, nobody's paying my $2,800 a month rent or my $3,200 a month. I don't know what the rents are, but whatever, 130%. So a family of, and that's the thing, that number for all of us is a set number. So you'll see it in the lottery. Like it'll tell you what the price range, and they advertise this everywhere. So again, my suspicion with his type of developments is that he will turn it over to DHS when he doesn't get the response that he's expecting. He did that at 3677 White Plains Road, if everybody remembers that address. That's where what's the supermarket that's over there? Western Beef. Thank you. He did that, built it market rate, beautiful building, marble top counters in the kitchen, decked out everything, wonderful looking building. I think he got like 11 or 15 people to live there, like normal people signed leases. And I guess because he wasn't getting what he wanted, he quickly went to DHS and they turned that site into a permanent shelter. And just think, again, I have my own feelings, but again, we didn't have an opportunity to vote on that. That wasn't something that came before the board, and that's the problem with a lot of this. Mark Stagg doesn't come to the city for funding. When he builds his property, he builds them. He gets the financing, he builds it, and then again, he knows that at some point in the future, he's going to turn it over to DHS and get that rent roll from DHS because he's going to sign a contract with Praxis. That's what he did at 4339 White Plains Road. So again, we're familiar with these things, but I think that's why we're encouraging folks especially our board members, to sit down and have this conversation. And let me just say, this is going to require a lot of work. This is going to be having conversations with city planning, having conversations with HPD, learning all the facets of the financing, learning what AMI is and understanding it better. Because I do agree that, like, you know, why should we be treated like we live in lower Manhattan when the market rates for over here is not that? It shouldn't be that. But that's what we get lumped into. Because regionally, AMI encompasses not just New York, but Jersey and Connecticut. So we get the tri-state area, and they base it based on that. And I'm like, that's so illogical. It doesn't make sense to me. But that's what the response that we get from HPD. So I get it, but I think that that's why I'm saying it's too large of a task. And I think I need you guys as board members and even the community to speak to Deacon Brown's point. We need to be prepared so that when somebody tries to pull the wool over our eyes, we can go out there and we can protest and we can make, you know, logical arguments and say, well, you know, this is what we want. We want 20% or 30% of AMI, and we want a mix. We want, you know, this and that and the others. But that only happens because all of you have to be a part of that conversation, and we have to dictate what we want in this community. The last thing I'll say on this, I think he's Brooklyn. Antonio Reynoso is the borough president of Brooklyn. He's putting together a comprehensive planning guide for his community, for Brooklyn. You know, I think we could do it just for our community board, but that might lead to, you know, all the other districts in the Bronx following suit as well. Because, like I said, this is not a genius idea by me. This is this is something that Antonio Reynoso is leading in Brooklyn. I think we could be doing the same thing.
We, you know, typically we take off the summer, July and August, right? And if we do that, that means that we're pushing back everything to September. A lot is happening. Maybe we can consider, we have this beautiful space here that we do continue to meet during the summer.
I promise the AC works.
Right? I mean, we have this space. We got to come together. So that's something that we should consider. If you're willing to do that, email me and we can put a meeting or two together monthly for July and August. And we do have Ms. Denise Bond.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So what I was saying is that it's fine that we're talking about these things, and George, good to see you back, and thank you for the information. But I think that if we don't really put together some sort of a timeline with actual sustainable things, like this is what we're going to do with a particular deadline, it's not going to work. We can talk until we're blue in the face, but if we don't take the action necessary, it's going to come to naught. So I think that a timeline has to be put in place. These things are time sensitive, and the more that we have the data to prove our points, the more effective that we'll be. But without having a timeline that's intentional and purposeful, I think that we're missing the boat.
It has to start with people joining our meetings, Ms. Bond. We have board members that don't show up. And so this is what we're saying. We can put the timeline, but if nobody's participating, we don't go anywhere. And
we're here. We're here, but
let's be here this summer. Let's be here July and August.
But Beatrice, what I'm saying is that now that we're here at this point, we should be talking about a timeline. Like we need to draft a letter to, or we need to put together what it is, needs and wants, whatever it is. We need to do something, but we have to have a timeline for those things.
Right. And so we're saying July. We're saying that we typically don't meet July and August, so we're going to start with that. We're going to take these 2 months that we're typically in recess to army up and put our plan together. We all voted on writing a letter to all of the elected officials at the different levels of government. We have to come together and take a stance on what we want to be in that letter. George just gave us a wealth of information. All of that needs to be included.
So when's the first meeting in July?
I just asked everybody to email me your availability, and we'll take it from there.
Are they familiar?
Doodle. Yeah, we can send out a doodle.
Everybody knows Doodle? All right.
A doodle is a platform where we'll throw out dates, but we'll just, you know, figure out when the majority of the group can meet. We're just asking for flexibility.
All right, it's too long.
Okay. Yes, we have Deborah and then Lucille. and then we'll wrap up. Thank you. Lucille? Well, we can divide and conquer. Okay. All right. So we are going to wrap up. Thank you all for your participation. For those that made it here, thank you so much. For those that couldn't, we met quorum, so that was a success. Please look out for your emails. We are going to plan to do things this summer. We also are planning an outing together, so please look out for your emails. Thank you so much for your participation. Can we get a motion to close?
Make a motion to close.
Okay. Thank you. Anthony did first, and then Mr. Hall. Thank you all. Good evening.